How's everyone doing? It's warm, innit? I'm gonna make this quick because that light there is killing me. Anyway, so not a lot's happening at Leeds, as we can hear, but there's a lot happening in the background. Best believe. I believe the new manager's already in. I believe he's now talking to the board. He's now discussing players. Hence why we're seeing all these sudden loans happening. So let's get into that, and we'll talk about the first person, Rasmus Christiansen. And what we're going to speak about is why is it a loan and why is it not a buy? Should we be loaning these players? Why we're not selling them? So there's many reasons for it. Now, with Rasmus, I believe the reason for a loan is two reasons. One, the coach. I think the coach has clearly come in and said, identify targets he wants to bring in, identify targets he wants to play, and I don't believe Rasmus is part of that. I think he's clearly said, if this player is keen on going, I'm fine with him going, but I want him gone as soon as possible. I do not want players around who I don't want and who don't want to be here. In order to facilitate a transfer, like an actual transfer with money, it takes a lot longer than a loan deal, right? All you have to really sort out is a wage structure, the obligation at the end of the thing, which we believe is an option to buy. So why is it an option? Why are you not obligation? Because his value could increase. It's about value. I know everyone's going, his value increase. What? Makes no sense because he wasn't great for his last season, but a player can play well. In Italy, it might suit him. His value might increase. Then at the end of that loan, you have an option to bring him back and then set a better value on him to get more money from the sale. Improve on what we bought him for. So that's why it's an option, not an obligation. If you put a low obligation in there at the end of it and he plays really well, you've been shafted, haven't you? So the option makes sense. Now, why is this happening? For me, in the recruitment, in terms of the meeting yesterday with the coaches, the final interviews, they will have gone through recruitment. They would have gone through who they want to keep, who they want to leave, and who they want to bring in. If we're talking Daniel Farke, you got Luke Ayling in the last year of his contract, who I think will stay as a good mentor figure and can help out if needed in that team. You have Cody Drameh and Rasmus Christiansen. Which one are you going to keep? Based on value, you're going to keep Cody Drameh. Based on potential, you're going to keep Cody Drameh. Based on experience in the championship, you're going to keep Cody Drameh. It's a no-brainer. So getting the guy out as quickly as possible that you don't want in your squad, given pre-season starts very soon, is important. You don't want these players around. If you're a coach, you don't want them. You want them gone as soon as possible. If you know a sale might take a while, all right, we'll do a loan with an option. Then next season, you look for the sale when you've got full pre-season, right? That's what I think's happened. Now, with Cody Drameh and Ayling, you're presuming Cody Drameh also might be saying, I want to start this year, and rightfully so. He's got, he's been in the championship for 2 seasons and done well. As a whole, it's not people saying he's the best right back in the league. He's still got time to develop to that, yeah, all right? But he's a good right back, right? Good young right back who has a lot of potential. But he might be demanding first team football. He might be saying, if Rasmus isn't gone, I'll go. I want my first team place here now. And if you take long taking Rasmus, I'll look at other decisions. And that's fair enough. Now, also the other thing to think about with the right back situation is the new manager. If it's Daniel Farke, and you've got Aarons from Norwich, who stated, I believe, said he's going to leave. Surely that's another option there. In other words, I don't think Daniel Farke wanted Rasmus, and I think Rasmus was open for leaving. And they want it done quickly. They want it done fast to facilitate a deal of transfers where the value will be low at this point. They think they can loan him out for a season. He could improve. He can do well in Italy and increase that value. I'm not a problem with it. Also, you have to take into account, we don't need money at this point, right? We have parachute payments. We have, other assets who probably will leave for transfer fees, who will get a lot more money and who have a high value still. We have those assets. What we need to do is cut down the wages, of course, and then sending people on loan, you can organise a wage structure where you can be sufficient with it. So that's why it's a loan. And it's the same for other players. I'm seeing news about William Gnonto. We'll get onto him now. Why suddenly has he been touted to Everton? Well, these are all rumours. We don't know if these are true. right? But we're talking about if they are. Now, the thing we're willing onto will depend for me on his international status. If he has been told by the international scene, the coaches there, that if he wants to stay in the Italian squad, he has to play in the top tier league, then you can't blame him for wanting to go. Look, same with Tyler Adams. These players like Leeds United, okay? These two do. Tyler Adams and not like playing for Leeds United, that's a fact. But international duty for them and for anyone, really, is absolutely everything for footballers. You want to represent your country. They're not from Leeds. We have to, they're not Leeds fans. They didn't grow up Leeds fans. They're not from Leeds. There's a difference between likes of Calvin, who stayed that longer. I can understand that. So if players like that want to go, I'm fine with it because their international is important to them. I don't want Willie Gnonto sacrificing his international dreams of playing in a Euros or a World Cup because he's in the Championship. Now, on the other side of that coin, with Willie Gnonto, who is 19, he was playing in Zurich last season for us. Sorry, you know what I mean? Season 4. He was getting the Italian squad then. And call me snobbish, call me big-headed, but I wouldn't suggest that the Swiss League as a whole is better than the Championship. I genuinely believe that. I don't watch it. This is naive, probably, but that's just my opinion. Probably a good league, and it's clearly got some good young talent in there, as we've noticed. But as an established league, I still think the Championship is all-around quality better. The Swiss League still has some very good sides in it, clearly. But as a quality all-around, I still think the Championship is there. So if they're now suggesting that he has to play a top-tier league, I find that quite strange, but maybe there's more competition now in Italy. I don't know. Your man Andrea, if you're watching this, he's the guy to talk about that because he's obviously Italian and he'll know all that stuff and his knowledge is insane. But that's my opinion on it. I agree Gnonto should leave if there's a top-tier club, if we can get the right value. But I also think there's a side in which he could stay for a season at Leeds United, because there's two ways to think about it. Player development. Let's talk about the player development of Willie Gnonto, a 19-year-old player. He wasn't starting for Zurich much before he came to us. He started a few, but he came off the bench a lot. We brought him in. For the main part, we didn't expect what we got. I knew we'd get it. I just didn't think we'd get it as soon as I thought. Now, so what is his stock? And then they look at the end of the season, he didn't play much. So there's not a big sample size. But a little sample size is still enough for big team scouts to say that is a player there. We can replicate what he's doing in this game and develop it and make him more consistent. You have an outstanding player. But if he could stay at Leeds United and really be the player we think he can, that would tear up the Championship. If we think he is that player and he believes in himself, he could get an insane amount of goals and assists, which would increase his value, would increase his structure, increase his stature in the game, get Leeds to the Premier League, and you're back in the Premier League and he's 20 years old. He's still 20 years old, and then everything is where it was, but you are increased in value, you are a better player, you have developed more, playing 46 games a season. You're indulged into a culture at Leeds United at that point, hopefully. That's the positives. But on the other hand, of course, a young man like that with all that talent might find himself wanting to play in Europe or playing at a top side in Italy or the Bundesliga, which is also good for development. The Bundesliga is great for development, especially wingers. Loads of wingers come from the Bundesliga. So there's two sides to it. So Leeds have to now quickly understand who wants to stay and who wants to go, and what is best for their development. If Gnonto goes, we need a good fee, and we can demand a good fee because he's our player and he's on a longer contract. If the player states he wants to leave 100% and he's not part of this project, you have to agree a fee and then take him. You don't want players around that and don't want to play for the club. That's not the culture you want. Hence why we're seeing Rasmus leave like that. So it's a tough one. It's same for Tyler Adams. It's a captain for USA. Can't expect him. If he's been told he will not be a regular starter for the USA if he's in the Championship, he won't stay, and you can't expect him to. There is other players, of course, talking about Rasmus, who didn't have a good season for Leeds in terms of his performance. He didn't. He had some decent ones in there, later in the season. He did under Sami. He was a bit more solid. He looked better in games. But as a whole, in the season, he wasn't great. He didn't have the impact we all thought he would, and his stock didn't rise. It probably dropped. So then you say, why is he demanding a move to Roma? He's demanding a move away from Leeds. It's a difference. He wants to play in the top European leagues, and if he can get a move in the top European league, we can't really blame him because he's clearly getting one by the rumours, right? And if the coach doesn't want him, why? But I get the whole, but then if we go to the Premier League, they'll come back. I don't think they will. I think any player that leaves on loan this year, genuinely believe this, other than maybe if Sinistera did it, or Tyler Adams. Because I still think there is an argument, especially with Tyler Adams, that if he does go on loan, he's right to do that. I know that sounds really odd, but I don't know because, yeah, it's a difficult line, isn't it? But players like Rasmus who have not proven that they are worthy of playing in this side in the Premier League, you're thinking, you're not going to get back in the team if he comes back in the Premier League. And he won't. I don't think he will. If the coach doesn't want it, he doesn't want to be here. He thinks that when you go back to the Premier League that you're quickly in that side and you're then part of the Premier League squad. That is wrong. The reason he's on loan, for me, is to increase his value. That's it. I don't think he'll play in a Leeds shirt again. And this will go for a few of these players we're seeing. Llorente, maybe even Matt Rocker. You know, it's about increasing the value of these players, sending them to clubs where you think they will do well to increase the value of them. They won't play for Leeds, in my opinion, again. Rightly or wrongly. I think we're establishing a culture. We want players that want to be there 100%. And if they don't, they can't just swan off on loan and then come back when we're back in the Premier League, because as a club, you know, we have more pride than that, right? Does that make sense? Because, of course, when you're playing for a club, every club is different. Our values are different to other clubs. Other clubs might be all right with that. I don't think we would, and I don't think the fans would fully forgive the player. I don't think the coach wants that. I don't think the project needs that. So I think if they do go on loan, there's an argument with one or two, maybe even like a Nonto, for example, where it's all about what's the best development for him. If he can go to the Bundesliga for a season and tear it up, you've then got a player with astronomical value. Now, do you want that player in your side? There's an argument you do, yes. It's like sending them on loan. Like, you're sending young players on loan. It's not saying, oh, I don't want to play for Leeds. It's they want to do what's best for their development. With a young player like him, I can't argue if he wants to go on loan for a season. I genuinely can't. I just hope if he does, it's the right decision and it does help his development and helps Leeds United. But players who didn't give as much last year, who didn't perform to a level we thought they should, who haven't got that astronomical value, think they can go out because they are better than the Championship, then come back. Not for me. So it's an interesting topic. It really is. I get the loans, not sales. They're quicker. It's easier to do. You can then watch their value, and then at the end of the year, if they've increased in value, you can sell them for more, right? What prices would people buy Rasmus for right now? I imagine it wouldn't be a lot based on his season, based on his performance. His stock would be down. The idea is he goes there and he improves, and his stock gets higher. He won't be going to come back to play for Leeds for me. A lot of those players won't. The only players that will for me are the top tier players. We don't have many of them. There's one or two, and the young players, like for example Nonto. It's all about development with them. All about development. They are so young. They have to develop. Where's the best place to develop them? That's what they have to figure out. That's what we have to figure out. Development and value, huge. Especially with a player who has an upside of millions in Nonto. So yeah, that's all my thoughts on the situation. I just want to get back to manager and player videos. It's taken so long. There'll be a lot happening in the background. There will be a lot happening in the background. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate all the support as usual. Legends. Please like.